Hi there, welcome. Thank you for joining and for viewing. So we're going to do an integrated mindfulness practice, meaning we're doing a practice where we're using deliberate mindfulness as a tool, and we're really moving towards this open awareness, awake awareness, effortless mindfulness, using the awareness that's already here and already is this source of peace, joy, acceptance. And for this practice, we're going to use sensations in the body. But let's not call it a body scan. It'll have some similarities, but also have some differences. And I'd also like to invite you perhaps to think about this session as more of an experiment rather than a meditation. So just kind of leaving aside any expectations for having a particular meditative experience. And the experiment, the way we're going to go about it is to be using a minimum of that deliberate doing or deliberate mindfulness or the deliberate attention in the service of allowing us to more effectively recognize and connect with this spacious, awake awareness that's already here and actually doesn't require effort to keep going because it's already there. So for the whole experiment, if you will, really the invitation is to set an intention to be present and listening to the guidance, but putting aside any deliberate effort to, in a way, do the guidance. Just allowing the guidance to guide the body, if you will. Staying awake and present, but that's it. No need to be doing anything else. So before we kind of move into the experiment proper, we'll have a little mini experiment to just kind of orient. So noticing that there are already sensations happening in the hands, especially if you have your hands on your lap with the palms up. Just noticing the sensations that are there. And I'd like to invite you to, just for the next maybe 2 minutes or so, explore a little bit and see what actually is required for knowing of the sensations in the hands right now. So usually it's a sense of, I'm going to be aware of sensations in my hands. And the premise or the invitation is to notice that the I'm going to be aware, or I am aware of sensations in my hands, is an extra thing, a kind of psychological trick. It involves kind of the narrating mind. It involves directing attention, and then that kind of conditioned narrating mind. After the fact, kind of taking credit for being aware of the sensations in the hands. Is that really true? So just exploring, noticing, are there moments, even if it's only a half second, where you can notice that sensations in the hands are happening, as La Kelly would say, without your help? perhaps there can be a awareness that there's knowing of sensations in the hands, and then maybe a split second later, a sense of me doing that, or thoughts, gee, am I doing that? And even if it's for, once again, a split second, that you can determine that there's awareness of sensations in the hands without the little me, the meditator, inside your head doing it. Even if it's a tiny glimpse, it proves that me, the meditator, isn't doing it, since it's not always there. It's not always involved. And it's actually something apart from the sensations themselves. And you could just kind of come back to this at some point in the future if you're intrigued by it. And we'll move to noticing sensations throughout the rest of the body. And so for the rest of this, going back to what I said in the beginning, setting your intention to just be listening, receptive, awake. That's it. None of the guidance is actually going to instruct you to do anything. So you don't have to do anything. Just listen, being awake. So sensations are happening in the very top of the head. They may be interpreted as tingling or even itching, scalp, pressure. Pulsing. And sensations are happening in the forehead. Those might take the form as well of pulsing, movement, pressure, coolness or dryness, warmth, who knows, even sense of moisture. And sensations are happening in the temples. Like all the other sensations, coming and going, becoming less intense, more intense. Sensations happening in the ears. Maybe warmth, coolness, feeling contact with air, tingling. Sensations are happening in the eyes. Maybe fluidity or dryness. And sensations are happening in the nose, surface of the skin, the interior of the nose. And sensations are happening in the cheeks, surface of the skin, in the mouth, the roof of the mouth, the floor, the top and bottom of the tongue, the back of the tongue, and the tip of the tongue. There's sensations in the lips, like all the other sensations, changing, coming, going. Sensations in the jaw muscle, in the bone of the jaw, and the teeth. Sensations are happening in the throat, the back of the throat, the front, deep in the base of the throat. Sensations are happening in the neck, the surface of the skin. Maybe feeling contact with clothing. And the shoulders, so there's sensations in the muscles of the shoulders. Might feel like slight pressure, once again, or tingling or movement. Perhaps sensations in the bony parts of the shoulders, the upper arms, the elbows and the forearms, and the wrists. Sensations are happening in the hands. Maybe sensations of temperature difference, coolness, warmth in different places on the hands. Maybe the experience of texture, contact with clothing. Maybe sensations of pressure or movement. Sensations are happening in the upper back, muscles in the upper back, shoulder blades, surface of the skin of the upper back, perhaps tingling or dryness or contact with clothing or the chair, maybe feeling pressure. In the middle and lower back, sensing sensations in the muscles of the lower back. So sensations are happening throughout the entire back. And sensations happening in the upper torso, the lungs, the heart area. Muscles in the chest. Maybe expansion, contraction. Warmth. Lack of sensation. Sensations happening in the stomach, the intestines. Might be indistinct, or there might be a sense of pressure. Sensations happening in the front of the torso, the chest and stomach. Perhaps the surface of the skin, there are sensations of tingling, temperature, contact with clothing. Changing sensations coming and going, increasing, decreasing. Sensations are happening in the buttocks, pelvic region. Maybe sensations of pressure, perhaps sensations from the tailbone. Maybe warmth. And there are sensations in the backs of the upper legs. Again, perhaps pressure, temperature. The interior of the upper legs, the fronts of the thighs. There may be sensations of contact with clothing and the skin, perhaps feeling pressure from the hands. sensations in the knees, the front of the knees, the kneecaps, the backs of the knees. Maybe temperature or contact. Sensations in the calves. Maybe sensations in the muscles in the calves. Maybe a subtle sense of pressure or sensations that are hard to name in the muscles. Surface of the skin, the backs of the lower legs. And the fronts of the lower legs, the shins, surface of the skin here. The ankles. And sensations are happening in the feet. The tops of the feet, tops of the toes, the bottoms of the toes, between the toes, maybe sensation of contact with other toes. Maybe indistinct, maybe hard to tell which toes or which sensations. Sensing into the bottoms of the feet. Sensations are here in the muscles of the feet. Again, maybe pressure, maybe feeling temperature, warmth, coolness. And sensations are happening throughout the entire body. So this sensing of the entire body, maybe sensations of just aliveness, subtle micro movement, larger movements like the breath. Noticing that the sensations are already happening. There's already knowing of the sensations without me, the meditator, needing to concentrate on them. Me, the meditator, is not needed to add to this. Sensations are already known. Okay. So finishing up the experiment. So I hope that was fun or intriguing or something for you. So maybe just to say a couple of words about what we're doing with that experiment and how it is different. It was obviously different, but maybe why it's different and what we're doing. So in the more traditional, deliberate mindfulness approach to the body scan that we use in MBSR, where using our attention and this tool of being able to deliberately initiate something, and that tool of deliberately initiating something, to all of us, I would say, creates a sense of me doing something. And with the traditional or deliberate mindfulness approach to the body scan, we're learning important things. We're learning about attention and what it is, and we're right away learn that it's actually something that it's an aspect of the mind that we have access to and can deliberately invoke for a short period. So we can deliberately point the attention somewhere, and then we learn that in fact goes someplace else. And the thing we may or may not notice early in MBSR is that we were convinced there was a me that was deliberately attending to sensations, say, in my feet. But the fact that my attention goes somewhere else and that me is no longer around, a lot of times just goes past us. We don't realize that that just showed us that that me that we thought was there is actually not there at all. And it's us talking to ourselves, so the narrative mind, and a set of physical sensations, and it's a kind of useful psychological thing. So we learn a lot from the body scan. However, if we just continue with deliberate mindfulness, we can kind of be reinforcing this false sense of a self, which is the thing that suffers and is unhappy. And we can always improve it. We can improve our personality, but it's actually kind of part of the problem, if you will. And so trying to make the personality not anxious or not want things, in some cases is helpful to a degree, and then kind of runs into a wall because it's kind of a false thing and it's limited. However, the good news is that this broader awake awareness, which is always there, usually in the background, in fact, is the source of our freedom from that kind of stress or anxiety. And we have moments of connecting with it, and we can cultivate, no matter how short those glimpses are, we can cultivate a recognition of connecting with that. So this experiment that we did, being aware of sensations in the body without any instruction to deliberately do it, rather just calling out that it is already there, can possibly give you the opportunity to put aside kind of me, the meditator, and open and recognize that knowing of sensations in the body is already happening. So, like I said, an experiment, a little bit of an exercise. And it's really easy to just bring pieces of this into daily life if you feel like it. So just even taking sensations in the body, once in a while you can experiment picking up a cup of tea or something like that. Perhaps noticing that there are the sensations or the knowing of sensations, tasting the tea or picking up the cup, and how this sense of me knowing the sensations or the me that's picking up the cup is extra. One of the ways that can be a kind of a door opening to this is particularly to notice the narration or the narrating mind. It lags the experience by quite a bit. It's not that hard to notice, say, for example, you walk into a room that's chilly. Right away, the room's chilly. About, a half a second later, or maybe even a second, you might notice the narrative mind saying, oh, it's chilly in here, like to yourself. You're not even telling anybody else. And so that can be a really good thing to notice. It begins to break down this kind of element of thinking and sensing seeming to all be one thing, because it's not. So that kind of thing, or drinking the tea, there may be a experience that this is pleasant and it tastes good. And you might notice there's a narration in your mind saying it's pleasant and it tastes good. It happens after the actual experience that you've already had. So the narrating mind's job is to kind of collect experience and put a story on top of it, which helps us to some extent understand things. But when we regard that as me rather than as just something that my mind does, it can keep us kind of trapped, especially when the story is, I'm not good enough, or I'm an anxious person, or I'm not lovable, or somebody else is to blame, or this is unbearable. So many of the stories that the narrative mind is telling us are not so innocuous as it's chilly in here, right? So we can work with things like noticing when the narrative mind is coming in after a sensation and telling us about the sensation, even though we already know. It begins to kind of weaken. We don't believe it so much. And so then when it comes to more difficult narration that it's doing over and over again, we can have perhaps a little bit more space around it. Okay, well, hopefully some of that is helpful. Once again, thank you for practicing, and have a good day.